maybe you want to tell us what is it actually like to go on one of these test drives, especially for like one of these high performance cars. What is it actually like? Is it very? They give you a key, you jump in, and you just
It
drive.
depends. If it's the Europeans, they are usually quite liberal. The Japanese manufacturers are a bit more conservative. When you go for a test drive with a Japanese brand, international media test drive with a Japanese brand, it's always in a closed circuit, speed limits and all that.
For the performance cars?
Even for performance cars.
Okay.
Right. But when you go to Europe, they are a bit more liberal. They want you to experience the full spectrum of the car's performance.
Okay.
So they give you a bit more of a free hand. Usually the format when we go for a European press drive is you fly in. At the airport itself, the cars are lined up.
Okay.
There's a briefing room. You go in there.
At the airport, there's a briefing room.
At the airport, cars are there for you already. You go in. You go into a briefing room. They give you a presentation. They tell you what are the spec of the car and all that. Then they hand you the keys. They tell you. Then in the GPS, the hotel is already preset, and the hotel is usually about 100-200 kilometers away.
Okay.
So along the way, you drive, you fuel the car, you reach the hotel, you check in. Then you have your free time.
Okay.
Maybe to take the cars out again for your photography or videography. Next day, drive back to the airport, fly out.
Okay. So it's just one night sometimes.
One night. Sometimes what they will do is the Malaysia office, they will fly us in a day earlier. We'll stay at an airport hotel or whatever. Then the next day we'll be ushered back to the airport to catch up with the main program.
So why did they do that, to fly you in early? Just
so that to give us
more time,
acclimatization for the jet lag.
That's because flying in, that's like a how many hours flight if you're going into Europe,
Depending on where you transit.
Is it so? If I were to ask you, are the common assumptions, right? Are the flights paid for?
Of course.
I mean, paid by
the car brand.
Car brand. Okay. So the other assumption is that that automotive journalists are like, they're lavished and they are fine dined, so you're very happy with your experience. Is that also true in the sense that is that a very, especially with the luxury brand?
It was more true years ago than it is today, lah.
Okay. Yeah. What changed? Too many journalists now, is it?
That's probably one. And I think it's the sheer number, and also I think the car brands are just looking to work out ways to better optimize their spending.
Okay, no, I can definitely see that. Yeah. So in the sense that that's if you're flying in, do they pay business class or not?
Some do, some don't. Oh, actually, to come back to my earlier point, there's. Because the transition from print to online has also introduced one more aspect to our work.
Okay.
So in the days of print, right, you fly in, you drive the car, it's more chilled because you can take your time and process your story.
Got it.
Until the next cutoff date. But whereas now in online, the pressures from the top for you to publish the story yesterday. All right. So even the journalists themselves are now less bothered with the fine dining, with all the bling blings, than they are with having proper Wi-Fi and a desk to work with.
So does that mean that if just say, okay, COVID is a bit of a weird situation, but if it was before COVID, you would fly in. Do you put out an article the same day before you fly out, or you still come back before you?
I wouldn't go as put out an article before I fly out, but probably I'll be working on the plane on the way back.
Okay. I think now that you mention it, I do realize that like even like Top Gear, I mean, okay, they're very famous, so I tend to watch a lot of their content, even on YouTube and all that. So even now, when you talk about a car, even before they review a car, there's like a pre-review where they just talk about the specs of the car. Right. So in a way, I can see that. In a way, from what you're saying, is that the journalistic, I guess, hunger to be the first. So even though everybody has not reviewed the car, including them, they're still kind of talking about the car. You know, they're standing around the car and talking about it and blah blah blah. So even when I think the latest Ferrari came out, the hybrid, what was it called? The one that came out very recently. It's got a unique name.
That was the Roma.
Roma. Is it the Roma?
No, the Roma is not the hybrid. I think it was the SF9.
Is it? Okay. Now we are losing our credibility as automotive enthusiasts. No, but why I bring that up was that it was just the one of the Top Gear editors walking into a Ferrari dealership and walking around a car in a showroom and just talking about it. He has not driven it. It's not a review. But the idea of getting the story out first. See, that's an assumption that I never considered before, because I just imagine, wow, you just get to drive and enjoy, and
sometimes you don't get to drive the cars. No.
Wow, that's amazing.
But
if they fly you out, they have to let you drive. Of
course.
So you're talking about like when they just issue a press release and ask you to write about a car, or
if they just issue a press release, it's up to us whether we want to pick it up or not. It depends. We will evaluate whether this piece of news is something that that generates content of value to us or not.
So at what point in time, so when you mentioned that sometimes you don't drive the car, what scenarios are there where you actually write about a car that you don't drive?
Well, sometimes it's typically it will be brands like Rolls-Royce.
Okay,
because the cars that they bring in are very bespoke. It's like you may have 3 or 4 different car linens, right? But each car is spec'd for a different customer.
Okay.
So they will arrange for us to view the car. They'll arrange for us to experience the maybe even the interior of the car. But we don't often get to drive it, and we don't expect it, because we know that every car they ship in, it's a customer's car. Yeah, it's a customer's car. Okay. So in a way, we are understanding of that. It is actually only the mass market brands, that they produce cars by mass production,
right?
That they register a dedicated press fleet. Fleet for media to test drive. That is the ones that we give them a ring and say, hey, can we test your new 5 Series? Can we test your new S-Class, E-Class?
Okay, but even in the case of this, like let's just say this ultra luxurious brands like your Bentleys and Rolls-Royce and so on. But even those guys would sometimes invite you over, maybe not in Malaysia because the cars here are not meant for press, but like you said, like sometimes it'll be Seville in Spain or Europe, and then they will organize a test drive.
But sometimes they do. Rolls-Royce no, but Bentley, Aston Martin, they do have customer test cars, and if they have a free slot, they will ask us if we want to have a go in it. But it will be a one-day thing lah.
Okay.
It'll be just like that day the car is free. You guys can take it out for a drive.
I mean, these are the dream cars, but I can also imagine that how many people can actually afford to buy these cars.
Yeah.
And if you can afford to buy these cars, are you still looking for reviews?
You probably aren't. But sometimes we drive these cars, we experience these cars, is so that for people who can't afford it, they can sort of experience and know what it's like. So it builds the curiosity for them, and it adds to, I suppose, the hype for these ultra luxury brands. But don't discount, sometimes even the potential buyers of these ultra luxury cars, they want a second opinion before they commit to a purchase.
Yeah, I won't be surprised as well. I mean, even if it is just status, you don't want to drive a car that's been, marked as a, not as a, oh, this is not the best in class, right?
Yeah.